to the mountain of Sinai on today. Did not get the Torah yet. There were 6 more days till they received till the holiday. But the coming to the mountain of Sinai, but not only did they come to the mountain of Sinai, there was something very unique about coming to the mountain of Sinai. Is that it was Vayichan Shom Yisrael Neged Har. They came united, like one. And that was something that Rashi points out. That was the only time they were that level of unity the Jewish community was today. So maybe this day should be used as a time to unify the Jewish community. And we welcome Yaron back from his trip. And want to get to see Yaron. The place is lighting up. Yaron walks in. The place is lighting up. All right. We are on the Gemara on Zayin Beis. We are in the right where the wide lines, one line before the wide lines begin. And in the art scroll, it should be 7b, most probably, what number? 3, 4, what is, let's see what it is. 7b, 4. 7b4, the top of the page, Lema Ketanoi. The Gemara says, let us say it's Ketanoi. Let us say it's a Machlokas Tanoim. So what does Rashi say? So Rashi comments, Hach boyod de Rabavohu. The question of Rabavohu, we should say, is a Machlokas Tanoim. What does that mean? We had in the Gemara, Rabavohu asked Rabbi Yochanan the following question. Someone's going up the ladder, and we hope everyone's going up the ladder of success in life, as Hashem. And he was going up the ladder, and while he's stepping down on the rung of the ladder, the rung dislocates. The step of the ladder, right? The ladder has many steps. We call it a rung, and the rung dislocates, and the rung goes flying, and it kills somebody underneath. Now we know that the Torah says Vayapel alav. The Torah says that to be obligated galut, it has to happen in the downward motion. Like we said, if a person's walking down a ladder and he falls off, if he falls off a ladder. In contrast to an upward motion. In contrast, if someone's, you want to mention to the group that we're on? You want to mention, maybe it'll be a little chizuk for the group. In contrast to walking up the ladder, if a person falls off the ladder while he's walking up the ladder, he does not go into galut. That's what we said. But now we have a new case. It's not about the person going up or down the ladder. He didn't kill the person. There's the rung, the step of the ladder dislocated, and that was the thing that caused the death. Good morning to Yosef Atzadik. Chodesh Tov, Yosef. Rosh Chodesh. We're holy Rosh Chodesh today.
Rosh Chodesh Tov, Rabbi. Gam lecha ve'lekulam sham.
Yes, beautiful month for everybody. And now, what's the question? The question is, he was doing 2 motions at the same time, 2 opposite motions. He was going up, but the rung, the step on the ladder, was going down, because the Gemara understands, there's some movement in the rung. When you step on a rung, the step moves a little bit. The Gemara is learning at this point, it's not perfectly tight, that it wouldn't have any movement when you step on it. You ever see, you step on something has a little bit movement, so it moves a little bit down when you step on it, and it dislocated, and it fell, and it killed someone, the rung, but you are moving up. So how do you look at it? Do you look at it that it's like you're moving up, and therefore you'll be patur, exempt from exile, or do we look at it that since you're the rung, do we go after the person or go after the rung? That's the question. The person is going up. If you go after the person, he would be exempt from exile. If you go after the rung is going down, you would be obligated exile. Is the point clear? Aaron, you hear what's going on here in the Gemara? So Rabbi Yochanan said he classifies this as a case of going down. That was Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan, remember, is not a Tana. He's an Amora. He's a later rabbi. And he responds, he looks at this case as going down. Now the Gemara is questioning that opinion by saying, you know what? I think I found that this is a machloket tanoim, that this case is a dispute of the earlier rabbis. And therefore, this will really be a challenge to Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan seems to say as if his opinion is the universal opinion. He didn't say I'm just taking one opinion. And that's what he seems to be indicating. Good morning, Jaime.
Good morning.
Good to see you.
Thank you.
Looks like wishing you a safe trip.
I just arrived from Israel.
Oh, wow, beautiful. Baruch haba.
Thank you.
So that's the question of the Gemara. Jaime, we just said we have a question in the Gemara. We said if a person goes up the ladder and the person falls down and he kills someone on the bottom, he does not go to exile because he was in the upward motion. If he's going down a ladder and he falls off the ladder and he kills someone, he goes to exile. And now the Gemara has a question: what about if he's going up the ladder, but the rung that he's stepping on is going down, and he steps on the rung, and the rung dislocates, and it kills someone? Do we go after the person who was going up because he was going up? He should be exempt from exile, or do we go after the rung that the rung was moving down when he steps on the rung? The rung was stepping down, had a little movement in the rung, and it was going down, and then it dislocated. So do we go after the rung, and therefore he would be obligated to exile because it was a downward motion, or do we go after the person's body who was going up? Rabbi Yochanan says you go after the rung. The rung was moving down because there was a little movement in the rung, and therefore we don't look at the person's body, we go after the rung itself. And he would have to go to exile. That is Rabbi Yochanan's opinion. Now the Gemara says, you know what? I found it looks like it's an earlier dispute about it. It's not so simple like Rabbi Yochanan says. There's another early rabbi that seems to disagree. That's what the Gemara is now doing. Lema ketanoi. Let us say that this question of do you go after the person who's moving up the ladder, or do you go after the rung which was in a downward motion when he steps on the step was moving down? It seems to be an argument of earlier rabbis. Lema ketanoi. So the Gemara says, Haya olam mesulam. Yeah, what's the tanoi? What's the writer? The guy was going up the ladder. V'nishmeta shliva mitachtav. And the rung, the step of the ladder, fell. The step, there's 20 rungs 30 rungs on the ladder, and one of those rungs slipped out. So here we have clearly the case is very clear, Mr. Abe. The case now, the bright is very specific in the case. And this is seems to be the exact case that was in question. The rung fell out while you were going up. Do you go after you, and you're exempt from Gola because you're going up, or after the rung, which is going down? And we have Tanechada, we have one brighter that says that he is Tanechada Chayav. He has to go to exile, which seems to say we look at the rung. So even though he was in the upward motion, he's going up the step, but the step was moving down. The second he stepped on the step moved down. And since the step was moving down, he goes to exile. We go after the step, the movement of the step. The Tani Idach, and we have a different writer that says Patur, but he does not go to exile. If such a thing happened and the rung of the ladder dislocates and kills someone on the bottom, does not go to exile. So the Gemara says, my love, perhaps, probably, we have two different opinions in the writer. How do we explain these two different opinions? But how come most probably that they're arguing in the following: the Marsava, one Tana, morning, one Tana holds. You read the heat, you look at it like you're going down. You go after the fact that the rung was moving down when you stepped on it. Had some movement in the rung. It moved down a little bit, and therefore it's obligated galut because the Torah obligates galut when if it's in the downward position. Umar Sava and the other rabbi holds aliyahi, that we consider it going up. we look after the person, because it's true. It's true. The rung was moving down while you were going up, but you were in an upward motion. Since you were going up the ladder, so therefore, you're not obligated to exile. We go after you, and you were in the upward position, going up. And the Torah says the obligation of exile is when you're in the downward position. That's what the Gemara suggests. So the Gemara says, low. So first, the Gemara, interesting, offers a pshat, which is going to go against Rabbi Yochanan. The Gemara is going to say, low. No, there's no argument in this. Maybe Kuli Alma, you could explain Aliyahi. You could explain that everybody holds that if you're going up the ladder, even though you're stepping on the rung and the rung is in a going downward position, but we go after you. You're going up. And therefore, really, if you're going up, you should be exempt from exile. So therefore, one brighter that says you go to your patur, that makes a lot of sense because you're exempt from exile. But the other brighter that says you're chayav, you're obligated, is not referring to exile. It means you're obligated in damages, which means to say the following, which means to say that when it comes to exile, the rule is exile is given only if you're going in a downward position, not if you're going up in an upward position. But when it comes to financial compensation for the person's family for what you damaged the person, it doesn't make a difference whether you're going up the ladder, you're going down the ladder. A person is always obligated under all circumstances. There's no such thing, if a person does damage to somebody, we have a concept, the way the Rambam explains, when you're going up a ladder and you fall down and someone gets killed underneath, we look at that, as the Rambam says, as an ones. It's something that was an accident, was very unexpected. Because when you're going up a ladder, gravity is not, when you're going down, it's easy to fall because the gravity is pulling you down more. And therefore you have to be extra careful. Going up a ladder, people have more control going up the ladder. And since you have more control going up the ladder, and if you fell, that's so unexpected, that's called an ones. That's so-called an accident. And the type of accident that the Torah is not going to obligate you to go. It's so inadvertent. It's so uncommon that it should happen. Good morning, doctor. The Torah will not obligate you to go to exile and leave your family and relocate and so on and so forth. Everyone has to relocate to exile. But it's true regarding exile, if it's an ones, if a real accident, you don't have to go to exile, but a real accident does not exempt a person from paying damages. A person is always responsible for his actions. If a person by accident was driving a car and by accident hit into a parked car, I didn't mean to, it was an accident. However, at the end of the day, you did it, you have to pay for it. Okay, most probably you would have to, what was the value of the person that I presume that we sold as a slave? No, you won't know. In this case, when the time when a guy goes to exile, he does not have to pay anything to the family. Say it again. If they kill someone, they don't. Generally give them the higher punishment. We don't give them generally. You have to see. There might be different cases, but in general, there's one punishment for this for action. But over here, when it comes to damages, there's no difference when a person damages somebody, whether you intentionally, inadvertently, it was a real accident. You know what? Maybe you did it, it was a real accident. But you with your hands, with your body, your strength, you're driving a car, you cause damage to someone else's property, you have to pay for it, even though it's classified as an accident. But when it comes to exile, a true, complete accident, good morning, Michael, a true accident does not go to exile. The only type of accident, inadvertent, when a person kills someone inadvertently goes to exile, is some level that he could have done a little better. It's something that he could have been a little bit more on top of his game. It wasn't complete negligence, but there was something he could have done a little better. Like we said, you're going down a ladder Got to be a little extra careful. He wasn't that extra careful going on. Even though he was careful, he doesn't want to fall off the ladder either. But he should have been more careful, so to speak. So that's what we say. So that's what the Gemara says. Can, and I would say to answer Dr. David's question, if I presume if a person gets killed, I presume they would have to, the value they would have to estimate is how much he would have been worth to be sold as a slave for a certain, for the rest of his life. And now that his life was taken away, I presume that would be the type of valuation they would for the value for the person. We are on Zayin Amud Beis. We are on 7b. We are towards the wide lines, and the art scroll we said it was 7b4, right? Okay. Look at the wide lines, Dr. Navid. We're in the third wide line. Kan l'nizakin, kan l'galut. It depends when it comes to nizakin damages. You have to pay whether it was an accident or not, right, Michael? Some damage, some accident. When it comes to exile, it does not go to exile if it was a real ones. That's answer number one of the Gemara. That means there's no contradiction in the two braitos. God bless you. The braitos are talking about two different situations. One situation is damages, and one situation is regarding damages. Now I just noticed over here that they want to say the following, that I want to correct myself, that they're saying if the case when we say damages that he has to pay, he didn't actually kill the person. The person got damaged. The person got damaged. If the person got damaged, the guy was going up the ladder and he damaged the person. He didn't kill the person. If he would have killed the person, most probably the same way he doesn't go to exile, there might not be any monetary payment in such a case when he killed the person. But if he damaged the person, he was going up the ladder and he fell down and he hurt someone, the person did not get killed, okay? That he has to pay money. If the person gets killed, he's exempt from exile, and most probably, I presume he might not even pay money as well, whatever the reason for that would be. But if he damages the person he falls on the person, and the person gets hurt, he has to pay for it. So the Gemara is saying, well, we understood the case. What both cases was a person died. Now the Gemara says no, that's not the case. One case though where the person got damaged, and one case person got killed. When the person gets killed, when the guy falls off the ladder, if he's going up the ladder, he's not going to go to exile, because there's no exile by going if someone kills someone while he's in the upward motion. But if he damaged the person does not get killed, then he has to pay the damages. Then the Gemara says another. The Gemara says both cases is referring to galut. Both cases is referring to exile. V'lo kasha. If that's the case, why, if regarding exile, why does one brayta say he goes to exile if he's going up the mountain, going up the ladder, and he dislocates the rung and the rung falls off and he kills the person? Why does one case say he goes to exile, one case he does not go to exile? So the Gemara says, ha de itliya.
What did he do? He stepped on the ladder.
So what means so good? So the fact that there was someone underneath the ladder, the fact that there was someone underneath, I mean, person might know that there are people that are walking by. If you know that there are people walking, Mr. Haber is asking the question: the guy is going up a ladder, or if a guy is going down a ladder. I mean, we say if you're going up the ladder and you fall off, you don't have to go to exile. If you're going down a ladder and you fall off, you have to go to exile. Or if you're going up the ladder and the rung dislocates, according to those opinions, that you would have to go to exile if the rung dislocates. Haber is asking, why should he be held? Why should he go to exile? What did he do wrong? So it would seem to be he knows.
And through a near accident.
Yes.
Through a mere accident, there's a dislocation, and consequently, something happens, and now we're going to hold him responsible.
Yeah, so I presume the point was that he's going up a ladder in an area where there are people passing by. And therefore, he must probably have, there's a sense that he has to be very careful, extra careful. You're saying the rung dislocated. But everybody knows that a ladder is is a place of a little danger. There is always that people fall off a ladder. Things happen. Morning, Ariel. So therefore, the fact that that's the case, so maybe there's some level that you have to make sure there's nobody around, no one walking near the ladder. Perhaps there's some responsibility, there's some level small level of negligence of the person. So the Gemara says, Iba Yisema, I have another answer. That ha the Italia. The rung of the ladder was like wormy. The rung of the ladder wasn't in such good shape. So therefore, if the rung of the ladder was a little old, so therefore there's some movement in the ladder. So if there's some movement in the rung, so therefore it's going down. It's in the going down position. But if you have a rung, the loitlia, that the rung is very strong, it's a very good rung, the rung does not move down at all. And it remains when you step on it. Sometimes you step on something, and when you step on it, there's some movement in the item that you step on because it's a little, wear and tear. What do you say? So the Gemara says, one case is there is movement in the rung, and one case is no movement in the rung. What does that mean? It means the following. Morning, Ariel. If there is movement in the rung, so that means the rung, when you stepped on the rung, was going down. If there's movement in the rung, that means, let's say the rung was sturdy, but it was, wear and tear in the rung. And now, so when you step on it, it moved down, it bent down. So therefore, this answer of the Gemara, according to Rashi, is now moving the other way, Rabbi Yochanan's position. That as long as the rung was going down when you stepped on it, and then it dislocated, you would go to exile for such a thing. Because we go after the rung. We don't go after the person. The fact that you're going up the ladder, it's true, you're in an upward position. But the rung in the ladder that you're stepping on, there was some movement in that rung because the rung had a lot of, use. And therefore, since there was some movement in the rung, therefore we look at that the rung was moving down. The second you stepped on it, it was going down the rung. And therefore, you're obligated exile because the rung dislocated and it was dislocated in a downward position. However, the other Braita that says you don't go to exile was talking about the rung was not wormy, there's no movement in the rung at all. So since there was no movement in the rung at all, so therefore it was not going down. There was no downward position when the rung dislocated. It wasn't dislocating on the way, it was something that was going on the way down that the accident happened. The rung was flat, perfectly flat. You stood on the rung, and the rung didn't move down the second you stood on it. It wasn't going down. It stayed straight, but it dislocated, but came out. But the rung wasn't wasn't moving down when it came out. So therefore, since the rung wasn't moving down, you don't go to exile. So the Gemara is now answering. There are two different cases here. One, like Mr. Haberle's case, law, and reason. If the case is different, there's a good chance sometimes the law is different. So now we say, and I always like to say, an apple and an orange is two different cases. The law is the same. You say a bar creates. Sometimes the case doesn't change the law. But here, this case changes the law. If the rung did not move down, and then it dislocated, but it wasn't moving down while it dislocated, you're not obligated to exile. But if the rung was moving down because you stepped on it and there's some movement in the rung, then there's exile. Yes, yes, yeah. Ariel, you want to say something?
Or not as strong as it is today. So it was probably most of it were moving a little bit. It was not stable. So what do you consider going down?
As long as the rung is moving a little bit down, bends down, that's called moving down. You stepped on it, and the rung moved down. It was movement because there's a little movement in the rung. That's called going down. But they had the ability to make something tight. We're going to see. Look at the next answer of the. We have to have. Well, no, but I'm saying most probably very good. We could take a look at the rung of the ladder. Afterwards, we could take a look at the ladder. We could have two witnesses take a look at the ladder and identify the rung of the ladder. Is there movement in the rung or there's no movement in the rung? Okay, so Yaron wants to know, how do we ascertain that there was movement in the rung? I mean, not always does the guy fall down the ladder falls. Usually the guy is falling and the ladder is still there, that we could take a look at the ladder and identify the movement in the ladder. Yeah, but that's a good question, whether he can incriminate himself or not. You might need to have witnesses on it. Okay, so the Gemara continues. Look at Yariel, you're going to appreciate the next answer of the Gemara also. Look at the next answer of the Gemara. Iba Yisema, or I could give you another answer. We're talking about that the rung was pretty good shape. It was not, it wasn't what they call worm eaten. It wasn't that. It wasn't like old. It was a fresh. It was a nice rung in good shape. But Lakasha Hodim Hadek. One was the rung was very well tightened into the hole of the ladder. Right? What do you have? You put this rung into the hole of the ladder. You stick the step into the hole, and if it's very tightly fit, then there's no movement. Right? The step goes right into the hole, and then it doesn't move anywhere. So when it's tight, therefore there's no movement down. There's no movement down. So if you stepped on it and then you fell off, then the rung fell off. It was not in a downward motion, and therefore you will not go to exile in that case. However, the next case is the other writer that says that the lo mahadik, when it was not well tightened into the ladder, since it wasn't so well tightened, therefore there's some movement in the rung. Therefore, the rung is on the way down when you stepped on it, and therefore, if it dislocated and it killed somebody, you will be chayav galut. There'll be an obligation of exile because it was on the way down. But meanwhile, the Gemara is saying over here, we're not saying there's something wrong with the ladder. If you'll ask a painter who used the ladder, the fact that there's a little movement in the rung doesn't mean there was negligence, that the rung was going to come off. It's just that, over time, there's a little movement in the rung. Or the way you made the ladder, people make a ladder. Sometimes you make a ladder that you put it in, you fit it perfectly, a perfect fit. Just like anything of construction, sometimes you make it in a certain way that it fits in, that it's perfectly, there's no movement. And sometimes there's a little movement. It's not necessarily that we're not talking that there was a negligence that, it was loose and you knew it was loose and such a situation. Yeah, we found the case that going up you'll be chayav exile. The case would be if the rung was going down, only if the rung was going down. No, the Mishnah's case is that he fell off the ladder. The Mishnah's case is when he does not go to exile when you're going up, it's because you were going up and you fell off. And you killed, if you killed the person and you were in the upward position, but here the case is that the rung of the ladder killed the person. You didn't kill the person. The thing, the step that you were stepping on came out and it killed the person.
What if you borrow the letter from someone? I came to you and I say, Rabbi, can I borrow your letter?
Yeah, but again, Yosef, 1 second, just to address Yaron's question. The Mishnah stated that if a person's going up a ladder and he falls off the ladder, what's the case? The Mishnah gives me these 3 cases, right? You pick if you're picking up a pail, and then the pail, while you're picking it up, the pail falls down, you drop it. Again, but Yaron, there's a difference. What's the difference? When the guy goes up the ladder and he falls up, he himself was going up, and the damage happened from him while he was going up the ladder. So that's definitely, he will not go to exile. He will not go to Golum because he was going up. So when the case of the Gemara here is talking about, he's going up the ladder, but what came out when he was stepping on the step of the ladder, the rung of the ladder, the rung fell out. The rung of the ladder fell out, and that did the killing. So that's the question. How do we look at, what do we look at the rung? Do we identify the rung like him, and he's going up the ladder, and therefore he will be exempt from exile? Or do we look at the rung, since the rung was moving down, he would be chayav? The question, that's a different case. Our case of the Gemara is a different case because we're talking about the rung doing the damage. No, because the chavit, again, when the chavit was doing the damage, when I picked the barrel, the barrel was in what was only going up. If I am picking up the barrel is going up. There's nothing going down. When it was nothing was going down, then it slipped. But when it slipped, it was in the upward position when it slipped. The barrel was going up. Therefore, since it's going up, there's no exile. But here, when it happened, the step was going down because he stepped on it and it was moving down. Michael, is it clear? Okay. So now the Gemara. Now we're starting a new Mishnah. You want to say, Ariel? You want to add something or not? Okay. Mazel tov. We're starting a new Mishnah. Here's a very
Rabbi.
yes. Yosef. Oh, Yosef had a question. I'm sorry, Yosef. Yes.
What if you borrow the letter from someone?
Even if you borrow the ladder from somebody, you're still responsible. If someone falls off the ladder and on the way down and they kill someone, they have to go to exile. If the rung came out and the rung damaged somebody, so it depends, different answers of the Gemara, what the law would be. Now, the Gemara says a famous story in the Torah. Two people are in the forest, and one guy is he has his axe in the forest, and he's chopping wood, and what happens is something goes flying. Something goes flying. We have to identify what is the thing that goes flying. Something goes flying, and it kills someone, and that's the case of the Torah. Good morning, Mr. Betesh, Chodesh Tov, and it goes flying, and it kills someone, and the Torah says the person who was using the axe has to go to exile. Has to go to exile if someone got killed. The case of the Torah is, if you come with your friend to the forest to cut wood, and your axe, and you moved your axe to cut the wood, and something went flying, we'll identify that, and it found your friend, and the friend died, you have to run to one of the cities of refuge. That is the case of the Torah. There is a machloket, there's a dispute between Rebbe and the Rabbanan, exactly what went flying and killed the person. Was it the head of the axe, the iron part of the axe? As you know, the axe has 2 parts to it. There's the wood part of the axe, and then there's the iron part. Even today, I don't like axe throwing, by the way. I'm a little nervous about that. I know it's a common thing today. You go places, there's axe throwing. But axe throwing, if you look at it, there's a stick, and then there's the iron at the end of the stick, right? There's a handle, right? So one opinion is the Rabbanan say that the iron fell off. The iron of the axe fell off. You were about to hit the tree. You know, like sometimes you have a baseball bat and the bat goes flying. Someone throws the bat. Yeah, you didn't throw the axe, but while you were about to hit the wood, the iron of the axe went flying and it hit somebody. That is the opinion of the Rabbanan. Rebbe hold what? He has to, according to the Rabbanan, that's the case. You have to go. The Torah says you have to go to exile. You have to go to Golem. However, Rebbe holds that case you will not go to exile. Rebbe says, I think there's two opinions how to understand Rebbe. One opinion was that he should have checked most probably if the metal of the axe was able to fall off, most probably it was loose to begin with. And you should have been more on top of your game to make sure that to check the metal of the axe beforehand. And if you did not check the metal of the axe, it's considered a serious level of negligence. And because it's a serious level of negligence, you did not go to exile for that. Exile is not enough. Galut is not enough. Just want to say hello to the iPhone that joined. I don't know if I'm not sure if you, who's that? Morris. Good to see you, Morris. So that's the case according to about the Rebbe. He says that's not the case of the Torah to go to exile. What's the case according to Rebbe? When you were chopping, you were hitting the tree, and when you hit the tree with the axe, a splinter, a strong piece of wood from the tree went flying and killed somebody. That's the case. According to Rebbe, the case of the Torah, is that clear, Dr. Navid? Mr. Haber, the case of the Torah according to Rebbe is a piece of wood that you hit the tree, and the piece of wood from the tree went flying. You know, you were hitting the tree, you were cutting wood, and it went flying and it hit the guy. You know, you're both cutting wood together, and that went flying and hit the guy, and that's the case. Morning, Mr. Cohen. And that's the case that he goes to exile. So that's what we're going to see in the Mishnah. However, the Chachamim say, in that case, you wouldn't go to exile. And it could be the Chachamim hold that's considered something unexpected, that a piece of wood from the tree should go flying and kill somebody. You know, the fact that the metal of the axe might fall off, that we're going to hold you more responsible for. And therefore, you would have to go to exile for such a thing. And it was not, they don't consider it a real negligence that the axe, the head fell off. But the case of the piece of wood from the tree, they would hold that that's a real onus, unexpected. So now we'll just say it in the Mishnah. Nishman habaz mikato. Now we have the Mishnah. If the iron came off the handle, v'harak, and it killed someone, Rebbe Omer inagola. There's no exile for such a case. Chachamim Omer gola. That's the case of the Torah. The iron went flying. You have to go to exile. Thank you for joining, Mr. Shin. And the Gemara says another case. If the piece of wood that you were chopping from the tree went flying and it killed someone, Rebbe says that's the case that you go to exile, Gola. It's a piece of the wood from the tree killed someone, you go to Golas. You hit the tree and a piece of wood, a big piece of wood from the tree, a strong piece of wood went and went flying and he killed the guy. The first case of the Mishnah is when the iron went flying. And Rebbe says there's no exile for that. Rebbe says maybe it's too much of a negligence. It's similar to Mezid, there's no exile for that. And this last case, when the piece of the wood went flying, so that's the machlokas. Rebbe says, go there. Chum say you don't go to exile in such a case. Okay, we'll continue tomorrow. We'll review tomorrow this Mishnah. Have a chodesh tov, everybody. Thank you all for joining. Look forward to seeing everybody tomorrow, Bez Hashem. According to one opinion says yes, one opinion says no.
Hey, Morris.
Right, so if you say, exactly, if the iron fell off and it's considered negligence, therefore you don't, exile is not enough of it at all.
How you doing, my friend? Enjoying yourself in Israel?
Very good, thank God.
Okay.
Thank God.
When you bring some bracha from El Israel, when you come back.
I will.
All right. Have a nice time.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you.
Morris, good to see you. Chodesh Tov. When are we gonna have you back?
What?
When are we gonna have you back, Morris?
Huh?
You're in Israel now?
I'll be back. Yeah. I just left the tomb of Rabbi Akiva.
Oh, wow, that's beautiful. You're in
Going next
Tiberia?
month,
Where's that,
Rabbi Maya,
Tiberia?
It's Tiberias, yeah.
Beautiful.
I'm going to
Okay.
Rabbi Baal Hanes next. I'll speak to you later, Rabbi.
And there, beautiful. Thank you so much for joining. Have a great day.
Lots of blessings from Israel. Lots of
Have a
blessings.
great day. All the best, Morris. Take care. Bye-bye. What's happening over here? We need to verify. We want what?
It doesn't apply to you. It's
Yes. Beautiful.